Thank you for being here. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for also breaking the fear of closed places. You are safe here. And I will try to be quick with my words. Most of those words have been delivered in a virtual format. So you can find most of this online. But for me, it remains unsaid, because I need to say it while I am looking in your eyes. So, good afternoon, everybody. And so thank you for coming to this gathering, which would be perceived a little bit scary among many other fears that we inherited, and also fears from biological epidemics, fears from other things, fears from things that we can heal through medication, but racism cannot be healed through medication. For racism, we do not have yet a solid tactic. Many serious steps have been taken when it comes to diversity. They are all fully appreciated, but I believe that diversity somehow means that there is the same and there is the other. That on the foundation of a majority of the same of the owners, who are identical, presumably, and have ownership of a society, there appears an endeavor to open up, to include others. So those owners have the power, the right, the entitlement to include those others. Yes. This probably means that they also have the right to exclude, even if the attempt for diversity is totally honest and not just putting colors in the salad or adding makeup to the mask. Now the mask has a new meaning. Yeah, diversity would still inherently mean, in binary terms, the existence of others. It is a diversity that stabilizes the concept of otherness instead of negating it, and may probably fall also in the trap of reproducing the same structural notion of ownership and hierarchy, but with the protection of a systematic and categorized diversity. Diversity and plurality naturally exist beyond the efforts of making them visible. They are there from one person to the other, and they are there within every individual. A strong term would be equality. To seek equality on the grounds of a fair citizenship, where there is no same and no other, but all are equal citizens, residents of one and united society. A society that is strongly changing, with an identity that is rapidly transforming. A new Germanness is being continuously born, if such a word exists, and with it, a growing necessity for redefining identity, citizenship, and equality. And for this, we left the soft and flexible word of diversity, and fully embarked on a journey with the stronger, stubborn, and even painful word of racism. To call the things by their names is to retrieve a courage that is fundamental in the global society of today, a global society that is moving dangerously towards the right wing, towards new populism, towards new waves and forms of fascisms and dictatorships. And to decide to put those two words together in one sentence, dance and racism, means to deal with our issues in the dance field as well, to deal with them up front. So, also for our viewers online, thank you for listening to this, and thank you for not being scared off by racism, the term and the practice. And for all of you who are working with dance in one way or another, maybe we know that it is through public expression that things become acknowledged or validated. Dance is a central form of public expression. It reflects the socio-political issues we have, and it is itself a reflection of the socio-political issues we have. If there is racism in our society, then there is certainly racism also in the dance field. When we cross denial, collective pain, probably guilt as well, we arrive to confrontation. And with confrontation, we realize that just as racism is a form of rupture within the humane history of dance, exactly like colonization, dance itself can also function as a form of rupture to racism, a form of counterattack or counterbalance to what has already disrupted its human and universal flow of equality. In order for dance to intervene, to block the flow of structural and institutional and educational racism, dance has to decolonize itself first from the systematic discrimination against itself, against certain dance forms, certain dance aesthetics, techniques, certain content, and certain physical, psychological experiences. An endeavor for such decolonization would not only mean to allow in all those who have been discriminated against and who were kept out, but primarily means to acknowledge the right of existence for everyone that they represent in dance. To question what dance education tells us. What dance is, who can dance, and who cannot dance. What is high-quality dance that can be put on stage, and what is not professional dance. What is included in the curriculum, and what is excluded. What is the canon, and which dancer will win the market competition. To ask all those questions is also to face a history of coloniality and of racism. To face the colonization of our bodies and identities by authority, dictatorships across time, patriarchy, and the pedagogy of oppression and racism. Maybe I sound as if I am in a protest. I am sorry. To dream of a dance field where folk dance is not considered an inferior form, something that is probably due to the fact that it belongs to the folk, the people, the inferior, and not to the elite or to the intellectual and upper middle class or to the political regime's image of modernity and excellence. To dream of the respect and validation of folk dance as a form of resistance, of public and collective memory, of embodiments of identities and of transformations. To dream of this is to retrieve equality, existential, cultural, and creative equality. To dream of a curriculum where the students can choose from a wide range of forms, without hierarchy, without shaming any choice, without staining cultural dances, is to dream of nurturing a future of dance that is based in equality and freedom of expression and choice. To dream of the right of the students to choose forms, topics, and methods of learning. To go for topics, for content, for meaning, to acknowledge the right to connect to one's own roots and traditions while being inside the German educational system. To expand the dance education field towards potential topics that may be considered taboo, but that may also provide unprecedented growth for dance knowledge, research, and education. To offer rituality as a topic, for instance, and with it extend the dance practice knowledge to connect with the spiritual, emotional, and the holistic knowledge that can contribute to choreography and performance, as well as to establishing a new rapport with the spectators and with the community. To re-understand the processes of learning as processes of transmission, taking action. Now, to dream of such possibilities in the dance education on a large scale and on policy level is also to transform and embrace our changing society in order to meet the rights of a future generation that will definitely provide a new face for Germany someday. To serve that new and upcoming generation is to understand that the white supremacy can no longer stand. Along with it, the recycled knowledge and heritage of coloniality and racism. Yet, we should not forget that decolonization can also be a matter of individual evolution. One ought to have the will to retrieve the ownership of one's own consciousness and embrace empathy as a form of intelligence and knowledge. When Tanz, Komplizen, and OFTA decided to create this conference, it was according to their understanding of the necessity of developing not only the dance in education, not only that sector, and dance in schools and dance for young public, but also the overall dance field, whether in higher education, in research, or in production, because all of it is connected. And dance for youth or youth in dance should no longer be looked at as an isolated island or an inferior field that is disconnected and stigmatized by the professional adult dance. It is an understanding of how this circle completes itself, feeds and nurtures itself to the extent that there is no possible growth for one sector without the other. That the children who take dance classes in their schools today may become the dance teachers of tomorrow, and that those who go or do not go to the theater to watch a dance performance may become the choreographers and dancers of the next years, and that the performers on stage today may very well provide an image of equality to be identified with by the public, which would gradually invite more empowerment and solidarity. To develop dance for youth and dance in education is to work towards the future situation of the dance field in general, and to empower an equal and participatory domain where dance creation can expand and meet the new horizon of a growing society. Any performative act is an act of self-definition. There is no standing vis-à-vis an audience without a statement of identity. Any performance is primarily founded on a principle of being. Therefore, every performance is a performance of the self. The audience members' observations are observations of selves towards other selves. Our colors, races, genders, ethnicities are performative components of what we present, no matter what we do. Histories of colonialism, racism, dehumanization, objectification, they have impact on every performance we see, on every gaze we encounter as performers. And this is a challenge to change. Opposite to the almost alleged general consensus that the adult spectators might have while gazing at a performative act, children and youth offer a genuine field of intense plurality where each individual is still on an open journey where many notions are not yet set or defined. Their values, prejudices, and norms are not yet complete, neither are they entirely in control of that perception. To perform for children is also to perform within a process of growth, self-exploration, questioning, defining the self. A performance can fall right into their process and hence become an aspect of shaping the pedagogy of that child as a future citizen, adult citizen. To be who we truly are on stage is also a statement against stereotypes and labeling. I want to jump. Shall I jump? What do you want me to say? I have our inner sensitivities, our inner voices, our desires and pains, recognizing the stage history of racism, the aesthetic models, the institutionalized art that makes sometimes performers into puppets. In everyday life, like in theater, there is a dramaturgy of power and privilege. In education seems also contaminated by this power hierarchy. Who has the knowledge and who doesn't have the knowledge? There is a continuous authority of literacy that is also shaming what is called illiteracy by those who hold the power to define both. Driven by interest, by acquisition, by material and immaterial privilege, by economic, social, and political benefits, power strategies work towards excluding fellow humans from the sphere of rights and into the sphere of charity, donation, pity. The philosophy behind such power construction is a philosophy of fundamentalism, where some humans are robbed of the right of humanness, therefore instrumentalized, enslaved, and objectified. To have a willpower to revisit our overall social and cultural pedagogy from that perspective is to have a real intention to decolonize a history of divide and trauma. I jump. If emotionality is not shamed anymore, if the feeling of vulnerability and even tears is not anymore regarded as shameful and stained, and if we are able as performers to decolonize our bodies and expression while bonding with the spectatorship selves, then maybe a real act of solidarity and equality would occupy the performance sphere and carry it towards a new level of togetherness. A level that is crucial to transgress the legacy of injustice. As a child in Cairo, I grew up with my ballet classes until I became a rebellious teenager. From the ballet classes, I remember how normality was defined, how we should look like, what beauty, excellence, and grace mean. They were primarily defined according to a specific body that did not resemble any of us in the class. Those who had different abilities were shamed and regarded as not able. An interesting angle today to look at how disability is defined too, and according to which norm. We lived in a patriarchal pedagogy that deprived our little bodies from autonomy and delegated our bodies' ownership to the parents or to the teachers. We did not own our bodies, nor did we have any ownership or rights over them. I delved into the colonization of my body with total loyalty, without realizing some years later that I was manipulating myself and my body, and that my body, which I struggled to explain how or why it is different, was not really different, but was only its own self. Because being different entails that it is different compared to something, in relation to something, while in truth no one should measure their own identity or skill by any scale outside of his or her own self. The violence that I encountered every day, the sexual harassment in the streets of Cairo, shaped a vital part of my physical history, of my corporal memory, and of my experience in general and knowledge, but I found no place to express that. The dance education only offered very strict forms and vocabulary of movement that did not embody all those traumatic experiences. Until now, I do not think this has yet happened. Those realities and experiences then were left out from the stage of expression and from public statement. Moving to modern dance, also, I felt manipulated. I still did not fit in. So, what is dance? In Berlin, I recalled my own childhood, dancing in a school performance, where one Egyptian black female child was offered the possibility of identification and bonding and liberating the restrictions towards admitting her roots and history, when she walked at the end of the performance and said to me in Arabic, "I am Egyptian." It was a moment where our othered bodies became one, a moment where somehow I provided to her a model of existence that was not provided to me in my childhood. To dream of decolonizing the self is also to dream of infiltrating the canon and decolonizing baladi dance, or raqs sharki, or belly dance, as you may call it, and reversing it into a language of empowerment and non-ideologized feminism, eventually confronting and reversing the labeling and objectification of the Arab and Turkish female dancing body, winning over the exoticization, which dates back to the World Expo in Paris at the turn of the 20th century when Shafiqa el-Qibtiyya appeared for the first time in a context not far from the human zoo. I am about to finish, but it means I need to cut a lot. And maybe I will end with the last paragraph. As much as we need to be here today, because I assume we need to be here today. Do we need to be here today? Okay. And I apologize if this was too loud or disturbing. Sorry. We also need to be somewhere else tomorrow, in time and space. We need to move forward. This societal and creative movement does not only depend on the authority that stipulates cultural policy and legislation, it also depends on grassroots actions and on the responsibility and activism of each of us present here, as we can all be bridges and mediators for change and equality via our actions, especially when our movement is not restricted mentally and emotionally, and when we belong to several cultures and spheres of operations, we can manage to make ends meet or interweave. So I am really grateful that an outsider like myself gets this huge chance and occupies all this time from you and from the viewers. It is not every day or every year that I am asked to talk about the very vital and crucial traumatic racism in dance. So thank you for providing this opportunity for expression and healing.